Hello, everybody. Just as you start joining, we're going to give it a few minutes for everyone to join and then get this thing kicked off. Okay, let's get started. Like Spencer put in the chat, if you have any questions, feel free to add them either to the Q&A panel or the chat. Spencer will be monitoring both of those all the way through this presentation. If it is a more generic question, he can hopefully answer that as we go. But if it's going to be more specific to the product design extension and it'd be useful to answer them live, we'll go ahead and wait till the end to do a Q&A at the end of this session. With that, let's kick this thing off. Welcome everyone to this webinar that is the Streamline Your Product Development using the Fusion 360 Product Design Extension. Today, what we're going to go through is a couple of things. I'll introduce myself as a speaker, give you a little bit of background about me. We'll go through Fusion 360 extensions just at a high level, why we have the extensions, what the benefit is to you and your company. And after that, we'll go a little bit more in depth in this new product design extension and what it is, what's the benefit, how can you use it in your company to go ahead and improve your product design moving forward. After that, we will jump into the product a little bit and do a short demo. And then after that, we'll do a summary. After the summary, we'll go ahead and show you how you can get access to a trial. If you want to go ahead and try it, this is going to be very high level. So if you want to try it out yourself on your computers, we'll show you how to get access there. And after that, we'll have a little bit of time for the Q&A. So a little bit about myself. I graduated college as a mechanical engineer and actually started off in the industry working in a couple different companies, a couple different areas of the industry. First in the more heavy industrial area using Inventor, Autodesk Inventor. I'm doing a lot of large sheet metal assemblies and a large heavy equipment at Allied Systems, and then moved over to Daimler Trucks North America over here in Portland, Oregon. After that, I transitioned onto the Autodesk team, working in Inventor and working as a QA there. Also kind of doing some customer engagements along the way on a couple different projects in the Inventor. So if you're familiar with Inventor at all, you might be familiar with some of these projects, the F3 JDI, which was a lot of our fit and finish, a lot of customer requested areas that we were implementing in that product, along with some performance gains that we were seeing in Inventor. And then lastly, in the Inventor Revit Interrupt project. And now, since last year, I moved over to the Fusion 360 team, working as a customer advocacy manager, really trying to get the customers more involved in our development process and kind of bringing that full circle around to making sure that the customer is kind of at the core of the development process as we continue to create new features in the Fusion 360 product. So first off, what are the extensions and why do we use them? So the reason we have extensions is we really want them to extend your platform. We want to kind of eliminate this disconnected tools by extending your workflows with some specialized technologies in one platform, as opposed to having like several, which is typically more costly and has a steeper learning curve. It all should feel kind of similar across the board in a similar kind of platform feel. We also want to simplify your design and manufacturing processes in these extensions. We want to improve your operational efficiencies with automated and optimized workflows across teams to improve design efficiency and reduce that time to market. And lastly, we want to give you flexible access. Not only do we think that people need this for the year, but there's some times where maybe you just need it for a month. Maybe you need it just for the day and then you can turn it off after that. Or maybe you need, to mix and match any of those options. All of those are available through this type of extension framework, which is really why we've been improving that as we go along. So moving forward, what is this new product design extension? And the product design extensions, it's a collection of advanced design tools that enable an automated approach to creating complex product designs. So it includes intelligent feature settings and manufacturing aware guidance that will improve product performance and prepare your design for production. Focus more time on the function and aesthetics of your product as you apply specialized tools that increase modeling efficiency and editing capabilities. And you turn your ideas into a finished product faster with industry-driven technologies in the product design extension. So here you can see a couple of key areas. So you have the complex modeling that we have. You have some automated time-saving tools to get you, again, to commercial product faster. And then these intelligent design strategies really improve the development by making it more manufacturing aware. So getting down to what is the actual difference between what we have in core and what do we add in this product design extension? So for a long time, we've had some great tools in the core product in the design area. You have the basic great parametric modeling that Fusion is great at, but also the surface modeling, some of the free form and mesh environments that we keep adding to and improving on, as well as the ability to direct model. That's something that is kind of great in the Fusion environment, is being able to go back and forth between all these different modeling paradigms, as well as having the sheet metal and 3D patterning there. And what product design extension adds on top of that are a couple of these features that are going to be more manufacturing aware and manufacturing focused, especially in kind of the more plastic injection molding areas of the design. So here you've got geometric patterning, which allows for some more pattern features than you would have in the base model. You have boss features, web features, and snap fits, which are all kind of parcel with that plastic injection molding kind of parts, and automating your workflows in there. And then in all of those things, on all of those features, you have this plastic product design tools. So all of these have these automated tools to make these features a lot more usable and make the features a lot, it condenses your timeline in order to allow you to make these features in a more automated way. And we'll go through that in a little bit when we do the demo, and I can show you that there. Also, we use some plastic product design rules so that you, instead of telling it each and every step in the features, what the thickness needs to be, what the draft angle needs to be, you actually define that up front, and that drives all the way through the rest of your design processes and really helps with that automation process as we go through. And lastly, once you're done, we have a new tool in the preview, feature called Design Advice, which will tell you how does this actually work in a manufacturing standpoint? Are we going to need to look at any of these features or these areas to make sure that it is actually manufacturable after we've finished through the design? And is there any iterations that we need to go ahead and make? So with that, I'm going to jump over to Fusion here real quickly and go through a couple of the different things I just talked about. So first and foremost, we've got this plastics tab that you'll get when you start on the product design extension. And the two that I really want to go through today is this new boss feature and the snap fit feature. So here you can see I've got this speaker. So these are speakers that I had. If I click these on, you can kind of see some of the speakers and the board that I have here. So I've got this Bluetooth board, I've got the speakers here. All of this has already been designed. And now I just need a way to bring these two together and actually fit them together. Right now, they're just resting on top of each other. I need a way of actually attaching them together. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to try it with this boss command. What's nice about this command is I go ahead and I've created some sketches already. I'm going to click some of these points. And you can see it automatically just creates these bosses for me, right? And what's really nice about this is that not only does it create the features for you, it gives you a real nice preview. So here I can see I don't actually want these holes showing up at the front of my speaker because I don't think that will look very good. So I can go ahead and flip this here. And you can see that the preview automatically flips for you. Real nice feature there. You can see that we've got a top boss here where the fastener is going to go in, the bottom where it will actually thread into this piece here, and it adds the fastener for me. And all of this is controlled through this dialog box, right? And so if I want to go ahead and make this a little bit bigger, I can make it a little bit bigger. Say I want it 4 millimeters, and it goes ahead and updates all of my parameters for me. So instead of me going back through and having to update all of these again, just automatically works. If I want to go ahead and edit it, I can go ahead and edit it. I'm going to go ahead though and click OK. And you'll notice that that automatically populates. Okay. So I have a look over here. You can see that I now have holes in the back of my speaker. The fasteners are added. So here you can see this Phillips head is added to all of these areas. And we're ready to go. But say I go back and I talk to my industrial designer. My industrial designer says, I like it, but I don't like that there's holes back there. I want this all to be this clean surface that you don't see anything. So we have some options there as well. So let's say instead of doing that boss command, I want to make this snap fit. Okay. This is a pretty common tool in the plastic injection molding area. I'm going to go ahead and click these two. And again, similarly to the boss command, see how that everything is controlled and created in this dialog box. All of these here, you can see that the thicknesses, a lot of the diameters are already preset for you. And this is a lot of this is driven by how you set up your materials and your standards at the beginning. And we're not going to go through that here. We'll probably have some other webinars that go into more detail, but it's really doing that manufacturing thinking ahead of time. So it drives, like I said, it drives into these features downstream that you're working on now. So here you can see the snap fit. I don't actually want it to look that way. I want it to, the snap to be coming from that top cover, right? And I can just click OK. And say I want to put some on the back as well. I'm going to go ahead and create that sketch again, and I can go ahead and create it on the back as well. Real easy to do. All I need is some points there. You can see this is actually rotated incorrectly, so I can go ahead, rotate it 180 degrees, and there you go. I also want to go ahead and extend these. And you can see I forgot to do it on the last one. And the reason we want to do that is because we don't want this undercut here. If we have it only here, right, you would get this undercut here, which is problematic for your tooling. So I'm going to say 2 next. And the nice thing about this is I forgot it here. And if it was any other type of feature, I would have to go back through the feature tree because I probably would have had like 10 features to create that snap fit. Here, I just double click the snap fit, change the extend type, and I'm done. So again, just another way of automating your process. How much faster is it to design this than trying to create every single one of those features to create a snap fit? So much easier. And you'll notice here too in the timeline that this is a feature that is in both my case and my cover. So if I dig down into my case, I'll see the snap fits there. But also when I dig down into my cover, see the snap fits there, and they can be edited in any of those areas. So now I'm saying, this looks good. I think I'm probably ready to manufacture it. But before I do, let's get a little bit of advice and make sure that it's actually working. And we'll work with the manufacturing processes that we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and click this design advice. I'm going to click the body and then click a pull direction. And we analyze that. And this will come up with a couple of recommendations on areas that you need to just be aware of when you're going through and thinking about this from an injection molding perspective. So the first is thicknesses. There's large thickness variations right here. This again is all driven from the rules that we set up earlier, or the rules that come standard in the product design extension. So not only does it give us areas to look for in the large thickness variation, it also gives us a recommendation on what to do about those. So it could be that we need to go ahead and change those thicknesses because the thickness variation is too large. But it also could be that maybe for this plastic type, that's actually okay. And we need to go back into our rule and say, actually, the thickness variation that we're allowed to tolerate is different than what we have right now. And similar for this type of draft, right? So right now, the minimum draft is 0.5. So maybe this tooling shop can do a little bit less than that. And then also for undercuts, it'll show you where the undercuts are. But for many things like snap fits, you can actually modify the tooling in order to make sure that those work with some side pulls in that tool. So it's not saying whether it's good or bad, just letting you know where you can look and where you can have these conversations with either your supplier or if you're doing this internally with your internal manufacturing engineers, and make sure that they understand and you understand whether this is going to work in the tooling that you're working with. So once I've done that, I'm ready to go. So let's hop back over to the presentation. So what did we just talk about? We talked about the product design extension. I did a real high level, but let's go through a couple of the other tools just at a very high level to let you know what else you would get in the product design extension. Geometric pattern, it's not something I talked a ton about, but you could see in that cover that we had that pattern tool there. So that was created with our geometric pattern. It's a lot easier to make some of these more interesting patterns with that versus the rectangular or circular ones that we have currently in product. We do everything from a circular pattern to a rectangular pattern to a triangular pattern. And then you get to change the shape as it's going through the pattern as well, making some real interesting patterns that you can use in your plastic design. The tri-mesh to B-rep is more about mesh to B-rep workflows. So we have a lot of users that are doing more scan data type work. So this scan data is typically more of an organic shape, and it doesn't really translate really well if you're just trying to do the typical translation process. So we have this new tool that you now have access to with the product design extension, where you can take that and move it into a more organic shape and create a T-spline B-rep body, which works very, very well. And then the last thing in the complex modeling is this volumetric latticing. This is in public preview, so they're still continuing to develop this product, but this is really around the manufacturing process of 3D printing, especially in the metal 3D printing, where you still want the structure there, but you want to try and minimize a lot of that extra material that you have while keeping a lot of the stiffness. And so this volumetric latticing that we have allows you to do that in a really cool and interesting way. So check that out if you're in that space at all. It's a very, very cool new tool, and they're continuing to improve it as we go along. The next is that automated time savings tool. So we talked about two of the features that help with that process, where you're actually doing multiple different features in one dialog box, but we also have a couple of others with web and rib that also do the similar functionality there. And so those tools just help you automate that process so it's easier for you to create some of those features that are really common in that plastic injection molding area. And then lastly is this intelligent design strategy. So we didn't get into this a ton today, but you're able to specify a lot of these rules and these materials up front and pick those and put them into your components that you are creating as a plastic rule. And so that drives all of that stuff that we were talking about downstream with the thickness and the draft and a lot of the other things like fillets that are created there. And then lastly, the design advice that we see. This is also a preview feature. So feel free to, if you're trying out any of these preview features, we would love to hear your feedback on them. You can either give us feedback on the forums or go ahead and contact any of our sales representatives to let us know what you think, what's working for you, what's not working for you in those. In addition, I'm doing a very obviously high level overview right now of the product design extension as a whole. We're not getting in depth to a ton of the picks and clicks, of many of these features. That will be coming in upcoming webinars. So be on the lookout for additional communications from Autodesk if you are interested in kind of some of those more deeper dives going forward. So we talked a little bit about me, who I am, where I came from. We talked real high level about the Fusion 360 extensions, why we have them, what's the purpose of them, and then really got to dig in a little bit more into the product design extension. What's the benefit to you and your company? How do we automate these workflows? And then actually look at some of the workflows in Fusion. And then next, we're going to talk about getting some access. How do we try out this tool? Like I said, we're doing this at a very high level, which is great, but how do I know, or how do you know that it's actually going to work for you? And the way that you can try this is actually go ahead and try it. We'll give you a 7-day free trial. You can either use this link, which I believe Spencer will be pasting into the chat, or you can go ahead and scan this QR code with your phone. It'll go ahead and get you a way that you can sign up for these trials and just get started. Try it out for 7 days, see what you think, try it with your own workflows, with your own data, and let us know what you think afterwards to see if it works for you. And with that, it is time for Q&A. So Spencer, you want to check on the Q&A and see if we have some questions? As we're kind of thinking about it, feel free again to add it to the chat or Q&A, and Spencer will go ahead and field those questions. We can answer some of them live here. So Spencer, do you have some that we can chat about?
I do indeed. Yeah, thanks, Kyle. It's really, really interesting. So the first one is really talking about, does Fusion have a way or a tool to figure material usage for injection molding, things like shot size, for example?
Yeah. And I would say we don't have it in the product design extension. I think that would be more in the simulation space with kind of some of that mold flow simulation that's coming into Fusion right now. I believe that's in the simulation extension. I could be wrong about that, but it is in that simulation space. And I do think they show how much material is flowing into that. If not, obviously we have the product called Mold Flow. That's going to be kind of your higher tier package that will do a lot of that stuff for you. Mold Flow is very common in the plastic injection molding space and does a lot of those calculations.
Perfect. And we had a really live chat. I mean, I posted a link to the upcoming webinars. A lot of people interested in the mesh editing capabilities. Yeah. I don't know whether you want to just touch on those capabilities just from a real high level. I know we do have an upcoming webinar on that, but from a real high level, its capabilities and what it offers.
Sure. So mesh is mostly in the core product. The only difference is going to be that convert into an organic shape. So that convert into an organic shape basically takes something that feels a little bit more organic. It's less like a machined part. It's more like a scanned part, and then creates that T-spline body with it. But in addition to that, we have a whole new mesh environment that came out, I believe, in June, July of last year. And it gives you a lot of different options for both converting from BREP to mesh and then back. So we had some options there, but also kind of remeshing. A lot of the stuff that came over from NetFab in the repair environment came over and allowed you to do the repairs a lot more. It had a lot better repair environment than we had in the past. And then you just have a lot of tools in order to work with mesh. And it kind of brought it up to this more what we call first-class citizen in the design world, in terms of it works a lot more similarly to the parametric function. So a lot of the tools that I really like are the fact that you can now cut and join much like you would in a parametric environment in the mesh environment. So if you go ahead and create this cylinder that you have extruded through the mesh, if you go ahead and do a combine and cut, it's actually going to cut that mesh like you would expect it to in the parametric. And so you can kind of use those back and forth with parametric designs that you already have way easier than you have been in the past, where there are kind of two separate entities. You would either do mesh or you do parametric design. Now you can kind of do both.
Great. Hope that answers the question. If not, let us know in the chat.
Yep.
Lots of interest in that topic. So really looking forward to running another webinar in that area very, very soon. Real quick question on that topic. I don't want to dwell on it too much as we do have another one coming, but the mesh to T-spline capabilities that you were just talking about, you can do that with a tri-mesh, right? You don't need to have a quad mesh to be able to use that functionality.
Yes, any type of mesh, both quad and tri-mesh, will convert into a T-spline body. Yep.
Perfect. Well, I think that brings to the end of the questions in the Q&A portion. So if you want to take us away.
Okay. That's all I had for today. Thank you guys all for joining. We really appreciate it. As always, you can always reach out to us, any of the sales representatives, and feel free to ask any questions there. Thank you all for joining. We really appreciated your time today, and we hope that you have a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.